All right, everybody. Oh my gosh, are you thinking of changing jobs? Who's not these days, right? Okay, let's get situated here. All right, well, welcome. We're going to go over this. We're going to nail this. I'm going to share my screen so I can show you a presentation that's coming up at a national meeting. So I thought I'd share it with you first. All right, so building agility for changing times in healthcare. Oh, it's busy. It's busy these days, right? Everyone's thinking about, what should they do? Should they get new jobs? Is there something better out there? Some people are forced to get a new job. There's a lot going on, huh? All right, let's go. So, do you work in healthcare? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Where do you work? What do you do? All right, so we're going to talk about agility and how to manage it and how to influence it and how to improve your success of finding something you love. How to prepare for a long lasting change and how to acknowledge those feelings that come with change when you have to change a job or when you're thinking of changing a job or what have you. You know, there's a lot of feelings that comes with it, right? All right, let's go. So here's my disclosure, something about me, Dr. Mary Rensel. It's good to see y'all. All right. I guess I'm going to keep doing this. All right. So what is agility? What are we even referring to? It's marked by the ready ability to move with ease and grace, to have a quick, resourceful way about you, and to be adaptable. That's what we would say agile change is. And why does it matter? Well, today there's a lot of changing parts, right? And so we know we want to do great and useful things, but it feels like the world is shifting. You can't tell by this image here, that beautiful picture of our globe, but so much is changing. And so, what can we do to make sure we're using all our gifts and to feel like we have meaning in the workplace? Why does it even matter, right? So, we're going to just take a minute and think about where is healthcare these days. Healthcare is at what we would say a crossroads. So we see a lot of burnout, we see a lot of people leaving, we see a lot of people planning on leaving, we see a lot of new technology, we see a lot of AI integration. Sometimes this is all good stuff, like there's good changes too, but there's just rapid change in the healthcare world. There are health equity gaps, which, if you're the one in face to face with the patients and their family, it's very hard. We wish we could navigate that more easily. And then there's system inertia. I was trying to do something recently at work, and someone said it's kind of like moving a cruise ship. Can you dock that cruise ship? Can you turn it? Because there's sometimes system inertia because we're dealing with human lives and we don't want to just try things without thinking it through, right? So, agility is a skill. That's the great news. It's not a personality trait, it's not something you're born with. It's a skill. So that means we can develop it, we can build it, we can fortify it with, new learnings and practice. So what about teams? Can we get agile teams? Like, what are they like? Well, agile teams, they want to engage in the process of continuously adapting their innovative endeavors. They want to be less rigid. They want to be willing to think about new ways of doing things, to be creative, to get things done faster, to respond quickly to the needs that are right in front of them. Because customer requirements are changing, right? Like people want things faster. They want explanations and they want easy access to things, right? The way things are today is no way at all what they were as far as customer requirements about 30 years ago. I've been a practicing neurologist for 30 years, and what the time that we used to turn things over 30 years ago is so different than now, just like in every industry. So interestingly, there's studies, and I have the references of the studies here, but there's studies showing, looking at organizations that are agile and what does it mean? And when companies are agile, so this is a study looking at 325 companies, when they had a high agility resiliency index, they showed higher returns of investment, 150% higher, and 500% higher return on equity. So they were, as a business, doing better when they were agile. They had something they called agility resilience. And so there was a direct effect when the teams and the culture was agile and resilient. There was a direct effect, interestingly, on stability, that people weren't leaving as often. There was a right-sized teamwork, and there was a relentless course correction. That pivot or persevere thing we hear with the startup industry. They relentlessly were correcting what they did and just always looking at things in that continuous improvement. So it seems to matter from a financial perspective. And then this is a gentleman by the name of Satya Nadella. He's the CEO of Microsoft currently and since 2014. And he said he's a learn it all. He likes to read and stay curious and just, demand that in the culture of Microsoft. When he got on, he got there at Microsoft as the CEO, he said, I just want to change. I want people to be learning new things, to develop themselves. And he just wanted that. He just has that thirst for learning. And he says he buys tons of books and he takes online courses. And he fundamentally believes that if you're not learning something new, you stop doing great and useful things. So that's a pretty huge statement. If you're not learning something new, you stop doing great and useful things. So right now you can put in the chat, what are you doing new? What are you doing that's something new for you? I am a new golfer, so I'm learning how to golf and I'm not good, but I am going to go later today after this and do 9 holes. So, I'm getting there. I'm way better than I was a year and a half ago, but I'm new at it. I'm also a new, I'm working on my push-ups. I'm not that great at doing push-ups. I'm trying right now to do 40 a day. I haven't done them yet today, so I'm glad I said it. So remind me to do them. But I'm getting better slowly after like 3 months of doing them. I always would do 5 or 10 or something, and I always struggled. So, just like this gentleman says, Satya Nadella, he's the CEO of Microsoft. He says, really, you want to be a know-it-all. You want to have that growth mindset angle to you. You want to make sure that you're, thinking about what's important to you. What are you new at? What are you interested in? And he's all about that and that's the culture he wants to create there. So how do we do this? How do we even stay agile? What does it look like at a busy day of work? Well, this wonderful book comes to mind called The Growth Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. If you haven't heard of her, I would start by listening to her TED Talk and then get this book. But really, she reminds us that we can continuously develop. We can continuously learn new things, and we should be learning new things, just like Mr. Nadella said. He said to do great and useful things, we have to continuously be learning. And we should put a lot of effort into learning. We shouldn't do the easy things, the simple things. We should take some time to really learn and stop and pause and go to a deeper level of learning. And a line that she says, which I really love, is that my true potential is unknown and unknowable. So we just can't know where we could be in a year or 2 or 5. But if we learn, it could be something different. How does it look? How could agile design look? How could agile change? If we want to take our team somewhere new, how does it even look? Where do you start? Well, you start by just taking a pause and visioning where you could be. Let's just think of crazy ideas. They say like, give me your craziest ideas, because people maybe won't even give you what they're thinking because they might think, well, that's a little bit out there. But you want all the ideas. You want to at least have a process to get everybody's ideas. And then, you have to choose some. You have to try something. You have to narrow it down and go with something. Create a strategy. What's your approach? Who's going to do what? When is it due? And then you see how it goes, and then you iterate. And that's the key to the whole startup philosophy. That's the key to lean, is that you try something and you change a little bit, you pivot, or you persevere. You keep going, or you say, this isn't working. We change a little bit. That's learning, right? So learning is seeing how it goes and adjusting it maybe a little bit, but that's how you learn. And that's what Mr. Nadella is saying. That's a strong focus in his company in Microsoft. So it's really important to know what you're good at. What is your purpose here on this world, on this earth, on this globe? And how do you even find it? Again, just slow down for a little bit. Get a blank piece of paper out, deep breath, get a cup of coffee. I have a tea, mint tea here. Take a little sip, take some water, relax. What are you good at? What do you help people with? What do people come to you for? What would you do for free? Because it's so easy for you. And this, a lot of times, of course, I'll bring it back to the neuroscience as a neurologist. We have our own connectome. We have a certain pattern in our brain. And we just, we are good at certain things. Certain things come easy to us. Certain things are easier for us to learn. And we can reflect on that. What are we good at? What do we like to do? What part of my days give me energy? What part just drain me? What could it look like? What could I do more of? What values do I have? What's important to me? For me, it's credibility, it's innovation, it's collaboration. So if those things are my day, I feel great. I love that stuff. So we want to design on purpose. We don't want to just pick something out. We want to say what's important to us. What could be? What could be exciting? What would wow you? This again goes back to that growth mindset. It's like the future is unknowable. We don't know the future, but we can impact it. We can influence it by trying and learning and trying again and learning, right? What's working now? What could be even cooler? What could be a crazy idea? What could be a really neat idea? And just take some time, not be afraid to fail or to try things. And this book by Eric Ries called The Startup Way also suggests the same thing. I mean, we can be lean. We're used to that in healthcare. I've never really had like, oh, we have a surplus, just go spend what you want. I just have never heard that in healthcare. We're always lean and being, really wise about, our budgets, et cetera. Because we have humans on the other end, and we want to make sure we're doing the best thing for those that we care about. So we want to build something, we want to measure it, try it out. How did it work? Learn from that. And then he uses the line, pivot or persevere. Do you change it a little bit, or do you forget it, or just keep going? Is it working well? Okay, big one here is there will be emotions. When we try something, there will be emotions. Emotions come with change. Emotions come with learning. So how do we, how do we deal with those emotions, those pesky emotions? Well, we got to show up to them. We got to feel them like there they are. I feel uncertain. I feel doubtful. I feel hesitant to even suggest this thing. You just got to acknowledge them. They're there. They're kind of like clouds going by. Oh, yeah, I have this thought that this might not go well. I have this thought that I might be judged for this idea. Yes, you probably will be judged and it might not go well. What will you do then? And then you make sure you align with your values. Again, for me, it's innovation, it's collaboration, it's capability. So I like to make sure things are at a high level and done well. So what are some, you could put it in the chat, what are some, emotions that you've had during your times of change? I mean, they're definitely going to be there. To say they're not going to be there is just not realistic. And then there's these thoughts that we may have. So we have to just notice the thoughts and the feelings that will pass through us as we're thinking about a change. We may say, I notice I feel scared when I think of that change. I notice I feel angry when I think of that recent change because now I don't get to work with my bestie or something. I'm having the thought that this might not work. I'm having the thought that this might be a waste of time. So just pause for a minute and say, I just want to notice that these are feelings and these are thoughts that come with change. And then you take action on what you have said is important because you've already envisioned things, you've already strategized, you already know what your first steps are. You're going to build that minimal viable product, they call it, just the smallest thing to test to see if it might work. And take action and try it, and then you learn. But you want to put a space between your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions, just so you just notice first, so you know what is. People will say this is thought work, this is mindset shifts. This is what can happen when we are contemplating a change or ready to, take a lead at work, and it can be scary. Now, this is a really shocking thing for me. The loss or grief that can come with change. And they call these things the frictions of change. So this is why a lot of us don't want to change, because there's a loss with change. And I'm going like this with my hands. It's kind of like it's friction. It's keeping us from saying yes really quickly. So what do I mean? Okay, let's say I was on a team and I got promoted to a new team and I have a new title and I'm working with a new team. Well, I have a loss, even though I'm excited and I get to do something new and it's an honor and I get a promotion and maybe I get an increase in my salary, but I don't work with the people I've always worked with. And sometimes that's a loss because sometimes some of those are my good friends. So, and then maybe I'm concerned about my freedom with this new job because I have more to do. So I'll have less time freedom. And safety. Am I safe when I put my name in there for a higher level? Am I psychologically safe? Are people respectful? Will more be asked of me? Will it take away my free time? And then status. What is my new title? And do I belong in this new group? So these are things that whenever you want to make a change or you want to lead your team to a change, we have to acknowledge that these are the point of friction. This is why people hold on to the old things, because they need these things acknowledged. So as a leader, you want to go through these 5 things And I got these from Dr. Susan David. She has a great book called Emotional Agility. So, listen to her TED Talk or read the book Emotional Agility. It's wonderful. And so she talks about these 5 things. It's such a great way to say it because I've seen these in action. I just didn't know exactly how to explain it. And she has explained it so well. And so why does change feel so hard? Again, where you have to think of these 5 things, these 5 losses with any kind of change. You might have that face of that little girl. You just don't want to do it. You're just mad, right? So even though if it's a good change, even though, again, you got that promotion, you have a new identity, maybe you have a new salary, but you may lose the identity, the work identity that you had. You may have lost your freedom for those daily behaviors you were used to because you're on a new team or you're in a new position. You might not have the same safety because you have a whole new mission, a whole new role. Maybe you're in a new area, you have a new office, you're going to a new building. And so those are just the safety things. You're like, I'm just not used to this. And then what is your status? You're a newbie in this new area, right? Even though maybe it's a promotion again, maybe it's a good change. And this is when you're looking for a new job, we have to, again, acknowledge these 5 things. I read a great study that showed that people who journaled, just wrote down any kind of emotional day or activity they had in the last year, last month, last 5 years, they got a new job faster because they, the theory was that they emotionally processed all their thoughts and they did that mindset work or the thought work about change. Okay, so resistance is a signal. It's not a flaw. It's just a signal that you're going through this grief of these 5, categories when you're thinking about a change or even after a change. Sounds familiar to anyone? Anyone have that face? Okay, so here she is, Dr. Susan David. This is her book I was referring to called Emotional Agility. Highly recommend. She has a great explanation for things. She's a psychologist. I think it's really well done. So she talks about the good news about bad moods, that sadness, anger, fear, guilt improve our focus, improve our memory of the situation, also help us pause and be cautious. And it can decrease our confirmation bias. So what that means is thinking that everything I do is great, everything you do is not great, and that I don't have insight into my role in something that went well. So if something goes well, I say, oh, that's because I was on that team. If something doesn't go well, I say, oh, well, obviously it's because of, Susan on the team. So confirmation bias just confirms what we know, and it keeps us from seeing the whole picture with rationality. And she says, discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. So there will be a range of emotions. There's no question in this world. And she also suggests clarifying values, like we've talked about, to have value-based decisions, because it doesn't feel good to us if we are crossing our values. If values are described as a line in the sand, and if we do indeed cross them, it doesn't feel good. That's not what is important to us. It's not how we want to live. It's not how we were made. And so again, so then actually what is agile change? We talked about why it's important, but what could it look like? Well, in a workplace, the teams could be what are called self-organized. They could be quick and proactive. They could be transparent. They could be collaborative. They could have these periods of regular reflection within the team to see what's working, what's not working, to learn from the current situation. They could have customer centricity, so looking at how the customer responds to various products or programs. They could have an iterative work approach. So iterative meaning they try something, they may change it a bit because part of it worked, but not all of it worked. So that's part of the startup industry. That's part of lean, that you try something, you might adjust it a little bit because you learned. And we do that within our life, right? So we try something, like let's imagine a baby learning how to walk. They may try their feet a certain way, and you can see them shifting and trying a new way when something works. And then there's an article from Peterman, the other one was referring to Grass from 2020, but Peterman in 2021 said they're accepting of change. They have collaborative decision making, again, transparency. They reflect on things. They're user centric, back to that, so that they think, well, how did this land for the customer? How did the customer use it? Did they like it? Did they give us feedback? In healthcare, a lot of times these days we have surveys, so we hear a lot about the customer's opinion. We test it and we organize and we learn. And those are what agile workplaces can look like. Now, there's a range between static and chaotic, and agile somewhere in the middle. So this image from an article, a manuscript, is showing us, companies can be in various ranges between static and chaotic. So let's say planning, budgeting, reviewing, they can be somewhere, they can be static with it. They're not changing things. They could be chaotic where everything's always changing, or they can be agile where they're trying some things, they're looking at the feedback, they're looking at how their customers liked it. So at each level of a business, we could be either static, agile, or chaotic. And obviously, we're not for either static or chaotic. We're for agile, where we're just assessing things, we're thinking about what's important, and we're iterating, we're making small changes. So if we're in a challenge, if the team is trying to find new ways to do something, interestingly, you might change just even a word in the questions you ask in the team meetings. So you might say, in what ways might I transform, this customer process? Or you could change it. What ways might I surprisingly change this customer process? So just watching a few words, tweaking the words a little bit can get people thinking a little bit different. If you make the words a little fun or surprising, it can help. It can help the team just think about it a little bit differently. We can think about who it might help. How will it change things? What are the possibilities? Who needs to do what? What are the action steps? When do things need to be done? What could happen and what could not happen? And what are the metrics we're watching over, so that we know exactly when it works, when it doesn't work. So we know if we have to pivot or persevere. What can enhance agility? Well, there's a great book. I have it right here. It's called Switchcraft. Ta-da. I don't know if you can see it very well here. Switchcraft. Ta-da. It's by Dr. Fox, PhD. And it's called The Hidden Power of Mental Agility. Okay, let me try it again. The Hidden Power of Mental Agility. So it's an interesting take on things like, how do you keep your thoughts creative? How do you keep your team creative? How do you stay agile in your ideas? So some of the things that came from this is cognitive flexibility, emotional regulation, validated learning. And that's what we've been referring to, is being flexible in our ideas, watching our emotions, just noticing them like clouds floating by and just knowing they will be there during times of change. And then how do we validate our learning? So we talked about iterating, we talked about setting a metric, we talked about then assessing it and being customer centric, asking the customers how it went for them, how did it go for the team. But very customer centric is important for Agile, because we're not doing it for us, we're doing it for our customers. So back to Mr. Nadella, Satya Nadella. So he was the CEO of Microsoft, and he took the skills and the tools of growth mindset to his organizational growth. And he said, here's a quote from him: "I told my colleagues I was not taking bottom line growth. I was talking about individual growth. We will grow as a company if everyone individually grows in their roles and in their lives." So he was the one who said, be a learn it all, just keep learning. And you can see he got on the scene here in 2014. And that, their profits went way up by 97%. And he focused on culture, capabilities, and concept. He wanted to change the culture to a learning culture, to say to people, they can keep on going, they can keep learning. The future is unknowable. All right, so that's very interesting. I mean, it did seem to work for him. And then, this is one of my favorite books. I have it here all dog-eared. It's called The Myths of Happiness by Dr. Sonia Lubomirsky. And her quote states, "Nearly all of us buy into what I call the myth of happiness." And she states, "Indeed, frequent positive emotions, feelings of joy, delight, contentment, serenity, curiosity, interest, vitality, enthusiasm, vigor, thrill, and pride, they're the very hallmark of happiness." So as an Agile team, as an Agile group, we want to remain curious. We want to also be serene, right? But we also want to have that vigor, that thrill that we're trying something new. And we also want to feel proud of our work. And all of these emotions can help us feel happier. And so the other thing that she said that I really love is she says, happiness is in the goal pursuit. So setting a goal and then figuring out how to get there, that's when we feel happy, when we're trying to figure out something. So she also says, so go for it, smile, laugh, stand tall, act lively, give hugs. Act as if you are confident, optimistic, and outgoing. You'll manage adversity, rise to the occasion, create instant connections, make friends, influence people, and become a happier person. So she's just really suggesting, just go for it, try things. We're not perfect, we're not going to be perfect, but we're going to try new things and we're going to learn. And we have a meeting coming up at Cleveland Clinic, so take a picture of that QR code. And then, we all want to do great and useful things, right? And Mr. Nadella said we can do that as long as we're learning, and it's possible. And the future is unknown and unknowable, so it is possible. And I leave you with some resources, and I'll leave you with also back to the QR code and some of my favorite books in relation to this that we mentioned in this live stream. So thanks for listening, and just let me know your favorite. And I appreciate it. And have a great day and be agile. You got it, for you and your team.